If you had a microscope and could look at a piece of a leaf, you would see thousands of tiny openings which branch out until the leaf has all of the materials it needs. What happens now?
Let's just talk a little bit more about rendering, because it's an important topic and it's a little bit confusing and you just have to get it right. So I want to make sure you're very comfortable rendering. And additionally, I want to help you right now set up a template for rendering so you really don't have to think about this for the rest of the class. Okay? So let's jump into After Effects. Once you're done with your homework and it's perfectly animated and you love it, that means you're ready to render. So go on up here to the Composition, Add to Render Queue, or Control-Command-M. And as we talked about before, that will open up this little render queue in a tab next to your composition. And basically you have render settings you can click on, you have an output module, and output 2, all right? Output 2 we talked about at 25 steps, and that's really simple. It's just basically what you're gonna name your file and where you're gonna put it, like what folder you're gonna put it in, right? So I think you can figure that out. And render settings, we're gonna leave this as best settings for the whole class. So you don't even ever have to think about that at all, okay? Because you always want your best settings. Now, the output module. This is something, sounds like NASA would blast out into space, but it's actually kind of the real heart of the render queue here. So this is something we're gonna need to dig into. Click on the word lossless, right? And that will open the output module settings. And let's look at these just really quickly. Basically, the important thing is that the format is always, for this class in any case, a QuickTime movie. There are other options in here, but don't worry about them. You don't need to use them. And all these other default things are fine, okay? The one thing I want you to notice is that right here, under Format Options, it says Animation. And that's the same thing as lossless. It kind of goes by two different names in After Effects. I'm not really sure why, but it does. And animation means that there's no compression at all on the video. When it renders it, it's like each frame is going to be a perfect TIFF, essentially, of that frame, 30 frames a second. And that's going to make a really heavy file that might not play perfectly, depending on how long it is and if it's online or blah, blah, blah. So what we need to do is put some compression on this. So we need to click on Format Options, and that will open this QuickTime options, okay? And here there's a pull-down tab next to Video Codec. And hopefully if you're not that technical, you didn't just get like really scared and want to curl up into a ball like I did the first time I saw this. It's really not that confusing, and we're most of the way through. This is kind of the deepest part in the woods, I promise you. So there's a lot of different kinds of codecs you can use, and we don't need to talk about any of them except for the one that we're going to use, which is, I think, got the friendliest, nicest name of them all, H.264. Which kind of sounds like R2-D2's BFF or something. So click on that, and that's what we're going to use, H.264, and quality settings are 100 are great, right? So just hit OK. Now you can see here that this says H.264 the way we want, and the quality is 100. So awesome. Just hit OK. And now, essentially, we're done. We could render this right now, and it would put those settings on that we want, and all would be merry in the world. But let's take this one step further and set you up for this whole class, okay? So let's make a template now of this setting, this render setting, and have it be the default, okay? So under Output Module, or next to Output Module, there's this little pull-down tab. And in here, you can see that I've set up a ton of preset renders for myself that I use frequently. Or some of these come default with After Effects too. You're probably seeing some of these same ones, but not all of them, in what you're looking at, okay? So what I want you to do is go down to Make Template, right? And here are, under Settings here, this is what we've just set this at. A QuickTime Movie, H.264, quality 100, etc. So let's go ahead and call this like AE underscore Kickstart, or something like that, something so you'll know this is the settings for this class, right? And even better, go up here to Movie Default. Right now it probably says Lossless, and go down to what we just typed, which is AE Kickstart, right? And with that all set up like that, hit OK. So now you see down here, you've got your AE Kickstart in your output module as your default. So just leave it there, and you should be set for the class. Just to show you how that would work again, let's say if I delete this and I go back to project 1 and I control command M to move it into the render queue. See that? Right there, the default is AE Kickstart. So you're really all set up now. So for anything you need to render for the rest of the class, just click in here, give it the correct name, and put it in the right folder, and then just hit render, and it'll work perfectly. The last thing that I need to mention when it comes to rendering, that I haven't yet, is just that the work area, which we spent so much time talking about in our composition, you should know that that also determines what's going to be rendered when you add a composition to the render queue. So if this was set up and we were just looking at, just some small part of this composition, and then I added this to the render queue, control command M, it would only render out between the beginning and end of this render work area. So make sure you take that one little step before you render to just check to make sure that your work area is set to the length that you want it to be, which is often the length of the composition, but not necessarily, okay? So that's just one thing to keep your eye on before you add to the render queue. Awesome. I think that covers it, and thanks a lot for watching.
If you had a microscope and could look at a piece of a leaf, you would see thousands of tiny openings which branch out until the leaf has all of the materials it needs. What happens now?